What's up, guys? This is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development for INFJs and how to create an epic life on your terms. Today we're talking about cold-hearted and brutal INFJs. And this channel is about personal development. So of course, I'm coming from a perspective of how we can benefit from this. This is not a bashing video, of course. I'm an INFJ. Most of you are. So of course, this is not saying you're a bad person, you're cold-hearted and brutal. But it's something that we encounter every single day. It's something that so many of us believe about ourselves and we give it some negative connotation. I want to talk to you about how to look at it from a perspective of possible growth, how this is necessary in order to reach our potential, and why it's time to start loving ourselves, including this quality. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then work with me privately. All the information you find below. So where's this coming from? Well, the thing is this, that we keep so much of our internal strength hidden. One of the reasons for this is because we have learned for so much of our life that we're best being the sidekick. And in order to be the sidekick, we have to give the other person the illusion that they're in charge. This is something that we might have learned as children because this is the easiest way for us to survive. It might have been the best tactic to get ahead at work. And it's also something that we have kept on telling ourselves subconsciously in a way of course, I'm not going to put myself first and do something that might feel like I'm selfish because I don't want to be like those people. I don't want to be a tyrant who just demands other people to listen to them. We tell ourselves, no, the way I show up, I do it because I want people by themselves to recognize that I'm a good person, to recognize that I have good intentions and that it's in their best interest to follow my lead in certain circumstances, of course. But that is something that happens in the back of our minds so often. And I have talked to so many INFJs about this, like I talk to people in my boot camp, in the comment section, my clients, and this is something that I've experienced myself as well. And before I actually confronted this part of me, there's no way I would have ever shared this with somebody. And I don't just mean share in a way of, okay, I think I'm cold-hearted and I'm brutal. I wouldn't have never dared that. But I actually mean showing up in a way where people could see this about me, that I was able to cut people off. This is something we experience very often with the door slam situation, for example. The INFJ door slam, when people have gone so far into a direction of disrespecting us, crossing our boundaries, that we really snap. And then we're gone from 1 minute to the other. And then people recognize actually how cold-hearted we can be, how brutal we can be. And so many of us don't ever want it to get this far because we're so afraid of the consequences and what this says about us. The whole INFJ door slam is a topic in itself that you should look into. And I have my personal views on this because I honestly believe that if we let it get this far, if we really get to a point where an INFJ door slam is necessary, then this has happened because we were not able to set the right amount of boundaries before. That does not mean that if this has gotten so far, that person has gotten so much in your space, has disrespected you so much that you shouldn't strike back, okay? Do the door slam, kick those people out of your life, please do that. But for the next time, you can set those boundaries earlier. I never thought I could because if I actually showed people my boundaries earlier on, I would be that cold-hearted person. I would be that brutal person. And the truth is that I have been that person all the time. And so many of you believe that about yourself as well, or know that about yourself. But we don't want other people to see. And if I get to a point where just because somebody does something that I don't like, but I can still justify it, if I'm already reacting in such a situation like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not accepting this. Like, either change your behavior or we're done here. Like, reacting in that kind of way, you will of course feel bad. And in a lot of ways, we tell ourselves the reason why we feel bad is because we're hurting the other person. We're making the other person feel bad. But remember, our mind also plays a game on us. Our mind would tell us what we want to hear. So yes, in that situation, we might think, I don't want to hurt the other person. But deeper down, if you really dig a little deeper, you will see that why don't we want to do that? Is it really because we don't want to hurt the other person? What is that even about? Why is it okay for the other person to hurt me, but it's not okay for me to put that back? Because in the end, the only thing we're doing is setting a mirror. Somebody is hitting us with words, with their actions, and all we do is just put that out there, put that back to say, this is as much as I will take. On the one hand, yes, we will admit that we don't like this, that we are actually sensitive, but it will come across differently. It will come across like we're cold, we don't have any empathy, and we just don't care about other people. So what is the deeper thing here? Why are we so afraid of doing this? Well, as I said, our entire life, we have learned that the best way for us to get ahead is to be the sidekick, for us to be the observer, for us to be somebody who understands people so well that we just get added to the group, that we're the perfect addition to what already exists. We're just put in the situation, we help make the situation better, and that's the way we get ahead. But the problem with all of this is that you will keep yourself small. You will never be able to actually go and create your vision, because your vision can never be created, it can never be lived out by being somebody's sidekick. There is just no way. That does not mean that you have to be a leader like you see it on television and that you have to change who you are. But it's about time that we ask ourselves, why am I so afraid to showing my strength and to showing that cold part of me? Because that cold part, that part that can really cut people out, that part that can be harder than seemingly everybody around us, that is the thing that makes us unique as well. That is actually a great quality. That thing is based on the fact that our first function is a perceiving function. It's not a feeling function, right? We have enough understanding and strength of emotion, right? Because it's on the second level of our stack. But our first function is introverted intuition. And introverted intuition is without judgment. Introverted intuition is without feeling. We can be intense, we can be very passionate people, but it's something that we choose. The basis of us is just perception, and we can see things from different perspectives, and we can also look at it from perspective of I don't care. But we, as I said, don't want to admit that because the consequences are so big. The consequences of, okay, if the other person sees that I'm actually not putting their well-being first, then they will not accept me as their sidekick. Then I will have to be the one who is the leading character of my movie. I have to be the one who creates a path for myself. I cannot wait for something external to happen. The reason why this might be so hard for us is our introverted sensing. Because this is the one thing we have to tap into. We have to bring this coldness out and to start seeing it as something positive, because this makes us a warrior. This doesn't make us a cold-hearted person in a way of I'm a bad person. It makes us a strong person. And a strong person is just as lovable as anybody else. And it took me such a long time to get to a space where I started to love myself without being somebody who needs other people's understanding or pity or anything of that sort. How many times has it been in your mind that you feel like, oh, but I've sacrificed so much for you. I've done so much for you. Why can't you see my value? When you come from a direction of this, it always stems from the fact that I'm not giving myself the value that I deserve. Because if I do that, then I'm not waiting for people to see that I'm a good person. I know I'm a good person. I do the things that make me feel like I'm a good person, and I move forward. And the people who gather around me, the people who want to be around me, they do that because they like the way I stand up for myself and not because they like the way I neglect myself. But you can only find those people when you become a person who chooses yourself first. When you look at yourself and say, yes, of course I have a cold-hearted part about me. Of course there's a brutal side about me. But just because I can be doesn't mean that that makes me a less lovable person, a less respectable person. It might just mean that you're not in a position anymore where other people will pull you with them because they think you're weaker than them. And how often have you been in situations where you have hidden this. When you stand in your strength, when you stand in this coldness, so to say, which can carry you through the darkest alleys of your soul. Like, you have to imagine this. Like, when you go through those passages of life that are so hard, the reason why you're going through this, there's like this great saying that says, why was I put in this situation? Why did I have to go through this? Why did I have to swim through that darkness? Then the answer is because your enemies can't swim. And your enemies in this case are your demons. The enemies might be the people who underestimate you. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, you will have to tap into that cold part and be okay with people seeing that part of you. But because you do that, you get to create something new. You get to overcome all of those blocks that you've had that made you feel like you're not lovable. I right now know that I'm able to do so many things that other people are not capable of from a mental standpoint, that I don't care about certain recognition, that I don't care about other people's respect in certain areas, that I just say, I'm just looking into the direction I'm going, and everybody who doesn't believe in what I'm saying, like, I just don't care about this. The only way this happened was because I tapped into my coldness, because I was willing for people to see that. And before, if I thought I would act like this, I would feel like the hardest, coldest person I could imagine. Now I don't feel like this at all. Now I get to tap into my happiness. I get to tap into all the beautiful things in my life. But I know that they are only possible because I have this cold part of me that allows me to move through those things that could have pulled me down. But I was able to stay cold, go through them, and then come out at the other end. It's time for us to accept this part of us and to look at it with pride and to stop judging ourselves for having this part in us when this is actually the thing that will help us to create that life that we want. When this is actually the thing that will help us to make things happen and help other people. Like, imagine a doctor. If that doctor would be all emotional while they're operating all the time, they couldn't save anybody. In order to really do good things, they have to be cold. They have to be tactical. They have to look at the situation as emotionless as possible. And because of that, they get to save people. Take the story out of it, guys. It's just part of our warrior story. I really hope that inspired you to tap into those parts of you and to stop hiding them because they're great. Remember, if you want to take the next step into creating your INFJ epic life and you want my help with it, then work with me privately. All the information you find below. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on INFJ intensity. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time.